Hello and Assalamualaikum, my name is Muhammad Danish Mirza. In this video, I will show you how to conduct a home-based experiment to study about the microbial growth on food. So, let's get started. These are the materials that we need throughout our experiments on studying the microbial growth on food. Firstly, we will use 10 sets of containers, and as for our samples, we will use 2 pieces of bread, 2 cups of milk, 2 bowls of rice, 2 pieces of crackers, and 2 spoons of butter. We will also need 1 spoon and some pieces of kitchen tissue paper, and we will also require marker pen for labeling and 10 pieces of scrap papers. Before we start our experiment, we need to make sure our containers is in a clean and dry condition. Next, we label our containers depending on their sample and their type of system. The label should include the date when we start our experiment, the name of sample, and the type of system. Since we are observing 2 types of systems, which is open and closed system, so in this case I use A for closed system and B for open system. Repeat this step for the other containers. We can also label our containers by writing on scrap papers and paste it on the other side of containers. Same with the previous one, our label should include the date of when we start our experiment, the name of sample, and the type of system. Make sure to not put our label on top of the lid of our containers, as it will be difficult for us to observe our sample. Repeat this for the other containers. Before we move on to the next step, make sure to wash your hand and dry it first to avoid any cross-contamination happen to our sample. In this step, I will divide the bread into their respective container and make sure to tightly close one of the container to provide a closed system, while leave the other without lid to provide an open system. Do this for all the other samples. Lastly, using a magnifying app, closely observe our sample and record the change that happened to our sample. Make sure to not open the lid, touch, or blow our samples while doing the observation. Repeat this every day for every 24 hours time interval for 14 days. In this part, we are making 2 different agar medium, which is potato distro agar and nutrient agar. First thing first, before we start preparing our media, we must first make sure our hands are clean and dry. For potatoes distro agar, these are the ingredients that we need to prepare the media. Firstly, of course, we need a potato, 5 grams of sugar, 5 grams of gelatin powder, and 5 grams of tartaric acid powder. We also need 250 ml of water, 5 sterile petri dishes, a sieving cloth, and a spoon. Firstly, take approximately 2 grams of potato, peel off the skin, and wash it very well. Next, we dice the potato into small pieces. Next, we add 250 ml of water into a bowl filled with the potato that we have chopped earlier into the small pieces in the previous step. Now, we let it boil until the potato is soft. After the potato has become soft, we close the stove and let the potato infusion to cool down. After that, we collect the potato extract by sieving it through a clean cloth sieve. Now, we measure the amount of potato extract collected and adjust the volume to 250 ml by adding water. Put the solution aside as we will use it for the next part. Now, we have to prepare the tartaric acid solution by first heating 50 ml of water and let it to simmer. Then, we add 5 grams of tartaric acid powder and mix it to dissolve. When the tartaric acid powder has fully dissolved, turn off the heating and leave the solution aside for later. Next, we slowly reboil the potato extract that we have obtained earlier. Add 5 grams of sugar into the potato extract and mix it until completely dissolved. Next, we also add 5 grams of gelatin powder into the mixture. Make sure to continuously stir the mixture until completely dissolved to prevent the agar from sinking at the bottom and burn. We let the solution to simmer at medium-low heat. Next, we add the tartaric acid solution that we have prepared in the previous step. Make sure to keep mixing the solution to avoid the solution to solidify too fast. Lastly, while it's still piping hot, carefully transfer the hot media into the sterile petri dishes. For these steps, make sure to ready the petri dishes beforehand so that we can quickly transfer the media and quickly close the containers to avoid contamination. Next, for nutrient agar media, these are the materials that we will be using. Firstly, we need some beef stock powder, 1 gram of salt, 5 grams of gelatin powder, and 5 grams of tartaric acid powder. We also need 300 ml of water, 5 sterile petri dishes, and lastly, a spoon. Now, we would want to prepare the tartaric acid solution by first heating 50 ml of water and let it to simmer. After that, we add 5 grams of tartaric acid powder and mix it to dissolve. After it fully dissolved, turn off the heating and leave the solution aside for later. After that, in another container, we boil 250 ml of water. When the water is boiling, we add approximately 0.75 gram of beef stock powder into the boiling water. Then, we add 1 gram of salt into the beef stock solution and mix it to dissolve. After the beef stock powder and the salts have been fully dissolved, we then dissolve 5 grams of gelatin powder into the mixture. Same with before, we have to make sure to stir the mixture to prevent the agar from sinking at the bottom and burn. After that, we adjust the heat to medium-low and let the water to simmer. Next, we add the tartaric acid solution that we have prepared earlier in the previous step into the mixture. Keep mixing the solution to avoid the solution from solidifying too fast. Same as potatoes destroy agar media, while it's still piping hot, we carefully transfer the hot media into the sterile petri dishes. Same as before, we have to make sure to ready the petri dishes beforehand so that we can quickly transfer the media and quickly close the containers to avoid contamination. For this last part, which is cultivation of microbes onto solid media, we require the experimental food specimen from part 1, potato destroy agar and nutrient agar that we have prepared before. We also require a sharp pointed knife, a needle, a candle, an alcohol-based sanitizer, and lastly, a kitchen tissue paper. Next, we have to choose a workbench in the area where there is no or less traffic in the house. Then, we spray adequate amount of alcohol or alcohol-based sanitizer on the surface of the workbench. After that, make sure to wipe the alcohol or the alcohol-based sanitizer using kitchen tissue paper. After that, we discard the used tissue paper in a bin. Make sure the bin is being placed nearby our working area to minimize the need to move around. Light up our candle on our working area and leave it for about 5 minutes before starting the procedure for fungal cultivation. Place the candle relatively close to you throughout the cultivation procedure, and remember, always wear your face mask during all the time during our experiments, and place all the PDA and NA plates on the sterilized working area and relatively close to the candle. Now, take one nutrient agar plate or NA plate and place it upside down on the working area nearby the flame. Now, we have to sterilize the sharp pointed knife by flaming it on the flame of our candle. After that, we take the plate that contains the agar medium and place it on the flat working surface. By using the sterile sharp pointed knife, we make a hole by cutting the agar in the center of the plate. However, we must do this step carefully. We must not touch the agar surface with our finger. Immediately close the plate when finished by placing back the agar plate onto the lid nearby the flame. Repeat the steps for the rest of NA and PDA plates respectively. Now, we take one container of experimental food sample from part 1 and we sterilize the blade of the sharp pointed knife and also a needle by flaming on the flame of a candle. Next, we carefully open the food sample container and observe the area where fungal growth is visible. Using the sterile knife, cut a piece of the food sample with the fungal growth, and with the help of the other hand, use a sterile needle to hold the food sample in place while cutting it. After cutting it, we remove the small piece of food sample using a sterile needle and transfer it in the hole on the NA plate. Immediately close the plate by placing it back on the lid. Do not forget to flame the needle and knife again before resting it on the workbench for later use. Now, by doing the same, we remove the second piece of food sample using a sterile needle and transfer it into the hole on PDA plate. Repeat all the steps done for the rest of the food samples. All plates were then incubated in the dark room at room temperature for 7 days. Finally, using a magnifying app, observe your sample and record your observation for 7 days at 24 hours interval. Last reminder, do not open the petri dishes lid during your observation. Repeat this step for all the other samples in both NA and PDA plates.